Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. Accidents happen. Without the right coverage from the right insurance company, damage to your automobile can be a real financial hit. That's why Kentuckians appreciate the competitive rates and personal service they get from Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When the unexpected happens, count on us to help you get back on the road. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. We're getting close to the end of the year. You have some big plans for the end of the year?
We actually go see family in Louisiana every year between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh, very nice.
It is like the coolest thing when you're a child because in Kentucky we are freezing and in Louisiana you wear shorts. So we dig in the drawer and get like our sport shorts out, and it's been like, my husband thinks it's awesome. He like packs shorts every year. He thinks it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, so we're post-annual meeting, kind of like sort of slow down here. We're getting ready for the holidays.
It is quieter here.
It is nice. It's nice. So I always look forward to that kind of this time of year. It's really kind of nice.
You guys do anything?
No, and that is the plan, the goal, and everything.
College cheerleading does not pull us anywhere.
Oh yeah, we'll go to the basketball stuff starts up. So she does cheer some basketball games, and that's kind of random. The whole team doesn't cheer every game kind of thing. So we just kind of figure it out, and we'll try to get one of us at every game as much as we can.
There you go. It's fun.
Yeah, so that'll be going on, and so that's always fun. You go watch a basketball game, see your lady, see your little girl. So it's a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that. But yeah, just really winding down the year and getting ready for Christmas season and everything else.
Oh yeah, feels good. We have a topic today that is the less exciting part of the end of the year.
Yes.
But we had to do it. It was time. And we got to talk taxes.
And this guy, he keeps it pretty dumbed down, even for me. I kind of understood some of the what he's talking about. So I think our listeners will really enjoy him. And he's a great resource. And he actually talks about some places you can go to get some more resources about taxes and planning for the next year, financial planning. So great topic today.
Yeah, I think year-end time, it's the time where we all say we slow down and get to just hang out and do what we want to do. For farmers, that's just not the case sometimes. We've got to get the books together. We've got to, the retail stores are calling, trying to do early bookings for things and things like that. So I think Jonathan has a really good way of talking about this. So I think you guys will enjoy it.
Yes, definitely.
All right, well, without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. We been recording a handful of podcasts today, just a little behind the scenes, and we got another great one here today. So we appreciate you coming to the office and to the Farm Bureau office and talking with us today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you guys don't get to see us, but me and Jonathan are dressed very nicely today. This is the most non-Friday apparel I think we've ever been in.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
You're all stepping it up. I'm just in regular old Friday clothes, but he got a tie on. Gosh, I'm really need to step my game up here.
Videographers never dress up. No, Jonathan, thanks for being here. I know we yanked you out of a tax seminar, so you're welcome, first off.
Thank you for that, yes.
But no, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, kind of where you live, where you farm, where you from, that kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So I'm from northern Franklin County. I'm really closer to Owen County than I am Frankfort proper, so I always try to give all those disclaimers so people can geographically find me in their heads. But I farm with my wife up there. We've got a commercial cow-calf operation and commercial ewe sheep operation. We've been up there for 18 years or so. So, yeah, a lot of fun. We love it up in that area.
Yeah. What kind of sheep?
Katahdin. I prefer just to acknowledge the Katahdins that we have. We do have a few wool sheep that we're letting them play out. So
did you grow up on a farm? What's your background there?
I did not. I'm originally from Eastern Kentucky. Spent a good portion of my youth in Lexington. Okay. And then I married into a farming operation.
Oh, cool.
That was kind of my
path. Your wife was, how long, what is her background?
Frankfort is where she's from. And so she finished high school and did a few things on her own, but always wanted to come back farming. And when she came back after she'd done her other things, she found me, and the rest is history. So
What a good find. Okay, so we bring you in and we love all the farming you do. You've hosted a couple field days at your place too, correct?
One. We've done one out there, yeah.
Yeah, Franklin County does a good job getting
Yeah.
out to different parts. But what do you do for your day job? Because I know a lot of farmers probably know you more from that than actually your everyday farm.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I'm an extension specialist with the University of Kentucky in the Department of Ag Econ. That's my day job. Working with farmers, farm finance, farm tax, some production management, but I kind of specialize in the farm finance, farm tax arena.
So what exactly, what's your day-to-day look like? What do you go out and do?
Yeah, so prior to taking on the current role, I was with the Kentucky Farm Business Management Program for, I think, 10 years, roughly 10 years. And that was a lot of one-on-one with farmers, going to their places, actually to the farm, the kitchen table, sitting down, going through financial records, tax planning, capital asset decisions, all those kind of things. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Really, the extension model in its fullest form, right? Taking university resources and going out to the farm. And then I came back to campus full time as an extension specialist and do more, county meetings now as opposed to one-on-one meetings, but still been able to maintain a lot of those relationships that I developed over that time so I can still stay fresh and, what's actually going on the farm and not just getting clouded by theory and the ivory tower.
Yeah.
So when you are, that's always the joke and it's not a joke, it's just always the analogy, I guess, when people start talking record keeping and managing your business expenses and things like that, they always say, just pull the shoebox out and let's figure it out.
Sure.
How real is that? How real is how people, you've seen all aspects of how people keep their records before you get there and kind of help them determine where to sort them out at, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the shoebox method is a really honest and true method that is still very much in practice. And so my kind of thoughts on that have evolved over time too, that, record keeping and the way we go about it's more of a continuum really. And so we just got to meet people where they're at and then help bring them along at their time and pace, right? There's more than one way to do a thing and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We talk a lot, so I'm a videographer here and we run around and shoot stories and the thing you see so often with farmers that they're not just a farmer, they're a business person, they're a scientist, they're a vet some days, they're lots of things. And, we'd like to tout that, but also not everybody's an expert in everything. And so to have folks like you out there that can be a resource is important. And so you do feel that importance every day in your job that you're kind of helping people that maybe, are good at jacks of all trade, but maybe not the master of that particular element, right?
Sure, yeah, and I love being in that role. I do have a passion to help those folks, and yeah, I'm glad that I'm better at farm finance and farm tax than I am farming myself. And don't judge my professional abilities on my farming abilities. So,
Do you find having the farm? I find this. I feel like it's maybe not credibility in the sense that like your farm justifies your knowledge, but people seem to find you more relatable because they know your boots have been in the mud too this
Sure.
week. Do you feel that? Do you feel yourself kind of back grounded a little bit having that to go home to every day?
absolutely, and especially when it comes to making tough decisions on the farm, right? It's easy to look at it from a theoretical perspective, but there's a lot tied into some of these decisions. There's emotions. There's legacy, so it grounds me in the fact that I may be giving you advice or nudging you to go a certain way, but I can understand your hesitancy to maybe not move as quick as you should in a certain area or on a certain aspect. So yeah, and then it's just living it every day, right? It's the worrying about what the markets are doing, what are beef prices doing, did we get enough rain? Am I going to have to buy hay this year? All those things that it's just ever present, in your mind.
Yeah, I call it the ultimate disclaimer. And we joke about you could go to any farm meeting and just talk about rain and you can open yourself up and feel credible with everyone in the room because you can tell them what your rain gauge had or didn't have.
Right.
But I do think it's real. Like we were doing farmland transition. I was on a panel this morning for that, and I guess that'll date a little bit where we're at. But if I'm talking to a group of farmers and we're talking about transitioning farmland, would be remiss if I didn't emphasize and say that I understand that there is a lack of profitability, and that's the hardest part about transitioning farm ground. And so I think as soon as people hear like, oh, okay, she's lived that, like me and my husband work a day job and we're trying to farm and we're trying to make it profitable on its own. But I am aware, because I do this every day, that I know that cattle prices are high right now, but I've had a cruddy couple of years before that, So
Right.
I think it brings, I always call it the beginning disclaimer, to where people don't turn their ears off. Like, they kind of
Sure.
go, oh, okay, she knows what we're talking about, or, oh, he's been there before. He knows what I'm going through. He didn't have a good hay year either. Like,
Right,
it,
right.
it brings them, it may not help you with your official credibility, but it makes them go like, oh, he's one of us.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
Sure.
I feel it when you talk to groups too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
So when we're talking about groups you talk to, I always go back to your farm business analysis days, just because a lot of what you pull from today stems from that initial work you did one-on-one with farmers. But the part that I always think a lot of people don't realize is you talk to a lot of groups that are not always farmers.
Sure.
So kind of help us understand other groups you get in front of, and talk through some of the things you do on a daily basis when you're, especially this winter meeting season.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very much involved with the Farm Financial Standards Council, which, not to bore everybody, but, came about from the farm crisis of the 1980s. Right. So it was a congressional mandate that turned into what it is today. I'm giving the really abbreviated version here. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm very active in that group. It's a group of volunteer individuals who we basically just maintain the farm financial standard accounting procedures. Like, we don't really fit into generally accepted accounting principles. So that's one group that I'm involved in a lot, which then opens the door up to, more tax related groups like CPA groups. I talk in front of various state organizations, their respective CPA groups. And, even at the national level. And then one of my jobs, part of my job, I guess, at the University of Kentucky is I'm the director of the UK Income Tax Seminar Program, which in its current form is primarily a 2-day tax seminar for professionals to get their continued professional education. So that gives me access to a lot of CPAs, insurance agents, certified financial planners. I know I'm leaving out groups because our CPE goes for a lot of people that take the course. Which is nice because, you start building relationships and there's synergies there, right? It's tax issue is one issue, but then there's broader tax issues and so you can, meet people up and increase your own knowledge of certain things that may be a little bit more complex or outside of just the traditional ag tax side of things. And then I do work with lenders as well, trying to understand, kind of what they're looking for in different seasons of agriculture, if you will, kind of where the concerns are and those kind of things.
I'm a farmer and I'm meeting you. I'm going to one of these seminars or one-on-one. This time of year, what's your first steps right now? What are you talking to farmers? It's the end of the year. We're going into 2025. What are you kind of, what are you targeting right away with a lot of these folks?
Yeah, so, it's going to vary, but there are still some very standard things that I start thinking of in the fall of the year, early winter of the year. And it's going to circle back to what we started talking about as far as record keeping. While I appreciate that it's a continuum, it is good to have a good record keeping system so that we can have that tool available to us so that we can look at certain things. So specifically, income estimation is what I'm really thinking about right now in this time of the year. Where are we going to fall? Not just from a tax perspective, but from an access to capital perspective. What kind of moves can we do? What kind of strategies do we have available to us to manage our income tax, but also not create a scenario that may scare a lender to death at the same time, And especially for farmers that have off-farm income, there may be some incentive to have losses or something like that. And you've got that off-farm income to make your overall lending risk look better, but if you're solely relying on that farm income, we need to be aware of, okay, what are our decisions today and how we choose to handle depreciation or we choose to handle prepays? How is that going to affect what the lender sees and, the narrative that we need to prepare along with that so the lender knows what we're doing, what it means for the operation and, our long-term projection, or at least the next 12 months.
So we talk about lenders, and this year, at least the last 2 times we've talked interest rate on the big announcements, has been the first, we'll say, positive for a farmer we've talked about. So we've had interest rate decreases. what do you hear from them? I know on one side of this, we'll look at maybe our row crop guys, and they're looking at tougher commodity prices.
Sure.
So that interest rate maybe won't be as intriguing to them. Everybody needs a lower interest rate, but it's not like they're going to turn around and go build a barn right now, probably. On the livestock, on the beef cattle side, we've got guys that have made really good money last year, much needed after the years before, and are maybe going into the second year with no look of a retention of the heifers out west. Those guys, the more this interest rate kind of trickles down, they're starting to talk about investments. Do you hear much from the lenders as they kind of go into the fall talking about different types of farmers that come in? Do they go into any detail on that or ask questions?
I mean, to some degree. I mean, it really, their perspective is largely what we all know, right? Like what you just said, it's kind of tough on crop farmers right now.
Right.
We've got low prices, and depending on where you're at in Kentucky, you've got low yields, which is a double whammy. Is setting the stage for the perfect storm that we don't want.
Right.
Low yield, low prices. So I think that as far as like lender sentiment, I'll get it right there. We go. And I'm not speaking as a lender. I'm not a lender. I'm not pretending to be a lender. Just what I've picked up, it seems like they're a little bit more worried about that side of things than maybe the livestock side of things. Of course, it's going to vary a lot, right? You can have, I've always said, you can take two farms side by side that were the same farm 100 years ago, and somebody just drew a line down the middle. And based on a lot of factors that sometimes are not seen, management style, family history, all kinds of things, right? One farm can excel through all times, and one farm may struggle even in the best of times. So there's going to be a very individualistic look at all of this. But no, I don't get any like super secret inside baseball with the lenders.
See, I thought we had it today.
But everybody that's involved, and I mean, it's pretty known, right? If one sector is struggling, you can understand that the bank's not necessarily going to abandon anybody, but we may have to have more conversations, provide more justification, and provide a plan for how we're going to see this through.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. I think it's fair. Sometimes we get a little hesitant to be open. And so that's what I always tell all my farmers that I work with is have that conversation with your lender, though. The lender wants to see you succeed. It is difficult and costly for a lender to walk away from you. And so if you have the conversation early on, don't try to hide anything. They'll help you find solutions most of the time to like, how can we mitigate this bad scenario that we're in so we both come out winners, So just a nice reminder I can understand how it could be like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation, but it's good to have the conversation. It's always going to be better.
I think it's hard. People that have continuous, their yearly revolving loans that are making sure they're managing the farm, they have that for the year, and then they do it again. You build such a relationship, and a good lender is a good friend. And so when times do get hard, you can feel that, and you can feel why there's hesitancy to go in there. You've had so many good meetings. You've had so many fun years. It is tough, but I could see where open and honesty on the front end would make the conversation a whole lot easier instead of delaying the inevitable, which is finding a solution.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's all kinds of options out there. I mean, when things look really bad on the home front, sometimes just a fresh set of eyes can acknowledge, this isn't good, but, we can find solutions here. Maybe we do principal only, interest only for a year. Maybe we term some stuff out. People are hesitant to term out right now because interest rates are relatively high, but if they come down, you can refinance, right? So, there's sometimes we have to take intermediate steps to reach our long-term goals. So, yeah.
So you did a lot of one-on-one across the table for a lot of people for a lot of years. And I've heard you speak a few different times. Are there any big takeaways, like if there were just some top tips for just the average farmer in Kentucky, that it's like, hey, on average, most of us are not doing X, Y, and Z, or most of us could always use a little more effort in X, Y, or Z? Because I know even my husband is the Excel king, but we still find a pile of bills that haven't been put in the sheet.
Sure.
And we have to force ourselves to do that, even though we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff every day in our day job. So what are some of those things you kind of have seen over the years back then across the table and then now talking to the lenders, kind of full circle moment? What are some of those big things?
It's going to sound like, a cop-out answer, a throwaway answer, but it really does come back to record keeping.
Yeah.
It does. And so I do this for a living, and I still struggle sometimes keeping up to date on my records for my farm and all the other things that I have going on. So I understand the struggle. But trying to be disciplined and setting that time aside to actually do that on a regular basis, and whatever regular is going to vary. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly. Hopefully it's at least quarterly. But,
Right.
I'm not trying to pigeonhole somebody like you can only do it this way. But the regularity, keeping your hands in the books, and then budgeting too. Oftentimes we get so busy, we're very reactive to things, and something breaks and we replace it or we have to fix it. I'm not saying that budgeting is going to solve those problems, but at least gives us information going into it. And if we don't have enough money, then maybe we can get creative on how we can find a solution in the immediate sense and address a big purchase when things are better, for example. So that would be my, and it's not a fun answer, right? I mean, I like record keeping, but a lot of people don't like record keeping, and I get it, but it's worth it, right? I had an old farmer tell me one time, and he meant it with every bit of truth in his soul. He told me, he said, Jonathan, my set of records in these filing cabinets, I mean, he still had filing cabinets, and there was like 4 wide. He told me, those records are the most important tool that I have on my farm, better than any planter, better than any technology, better than any combine I could ever buy, because I know where I've been and I know where I'm going based off those records that I have. And I mean, he got it. He understood it. So that would be my answer to that question. Just let's try to be a little bit more intentional, put forth the effort. And if you need help, reach out for help, right? You don't have to going back to the mastery of all things. You don't have to master the record keeping. Find somebody that can do it for you, or can help do it, or do some of the legwork for you. Find that solution. Don't think you have to tackle that all on your own if you're uncomfortable or if it's not something that's of interest to you. There's resources out there, and it'd be money well spent.
Talk about that. Talk about those resources. What are some things that even you go to? Is there some go-tos where you go out to find more information so that you're on top of your game for what you do? Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to sound biased, but because I'm part of the Farm Financial Standards Organization and volunteer with them, that's one of my first resources. Now, that's not a free resource. There is a nominal fee associated with accessing those because it's a nonprofit. So that's a great place if you're looking for, how do I handle specific things in my accounting, or how do I account for this? It's very detailed, but very reachable for anybody. And then on the tax side of things, I still use a lot of IRS publications, but my favorite, and it's going to sound weird to say that I have a favorite IRS publication, but I do. It's publication 225, which is the Farmer's Tax Guide. And it is readable. It's reachable. You don't have to have a law degree to understand it, which most of them, I feel like, at least I don't understand most of the IRS publications, but that's a really good one. And then, of course, all of your available resources through the university, through the extension office. There's usually some kind of record keeping talk going on, at least once a year in most counties or in a county close to you. Those are kind of my go-tos as far as that's concerned.
I didn't prep you for this one, so if you don't have an answer, I get it. But we have been talking farmland transition till we're blue in the face right now. Mm-hmm. And this is not a new problem. We've been talking about this for years and years. One might say since the 80s heavily, we have been very much talking about it. We could not be talking about transitioning farmland without talking about tax sure. implication, whether it's a sale, whether it's putting it into an actual entity and then having, trustees, a lot of different options. How often do you get questions on that portion when it comes to how to, do we make it into a corporation? Do we make an LLC? Do you get a lot of those questions, or do those go somewhere else and you redirect those?
I do get a lot of those questions, and some of them I do redirect. I have maybe too of a simplistic view of farmland transition is in the sense that if you know what you want to do, we can find a solution for you to do it. We can find a cost-effective solution for you to do it. We can find a tax-minimizing way for you to achieve what you want to achieve. What I see a lot on my side is more of the initial thought process, but then still struggling with, the questions of fairness and equity. And that's kind of, I feel like if you can get that off the plate, if you can get past that, which I understand is a huge hurdle to get past, but if you can get past that, there's a solution out there with, at least under current law, that you can basically achieve whatever you need to achieve or want to achieve.
Absolutely. I just feel like we don't bring you personally in your exact role into the mix, but we are constantly saying attorneys, CPAs, estate planners, we bring all these other specialties in, but you're kind of a jack of all trades in the sense that you can direct to the right entity. So I was curious how many of those you get. Because a lot of people, it's always, my favorite is, it's a tax avoidance tool is what they're always looking for. But a lot of times it's not just an immediate tax avoidance. It's more of a setting up something to better handle what your end goal is. And I think I've heard you say that almost exactly, is we're not avoiding today's tax. We're always setting up what the goal is at the end, and how that applies for the next 5 years is what we'll figure out.
Yep. And how does it affect the heirs? You know, is it better to take a stepped up basis or get it gifted and all that kind of good stuff? I spent a lot of time in trying to get out of farming, as honestly in the retirement side of things. And, you know, that's part of the estate planning aspect too. So how do we wind this down? Because it's really hard just to say, I'm not farming anymore, right? It's really hard to be like, I'm done. This is my last year. We have to, and if we're intentional about it and we have a plan and we execute that plan, we can make some really smart decisions over a 3-year period or a 5-year period to get to where we want to be, right? Without it costing us a whole lot of money.
Yeah, I think the initiative, some of it is just collecting what exists today, or who are people, who are things and resources that people can go to. And I think that's been as big a positive to the early kind of parts of this as anything. It's just saying, like you said, there's ways of getting there, but I just think it's been hard for folks to get there. And there's the emotional element behind some of these decisions.
Absolutely.
That have to be taken into account. And I think that's been some of the harder parts. And but yeah, I think just those resources are out there, and I think the initiative is really just trying to, I think maybe step one, just collect a lot of that, right? Mm-hmm. And put it in one spot and try to help folks get to those answers.
Absolutely. And I would say even in that regard, sometimes the best ones I've seen have been a multi-pronged team where you have a CPA or somebody in the tax world, you have a lawyer, and then you have a mediator sometimes. Not necessarily has to be like a full-blown licensed therapist or something, but just somebody who can mediate and help families or even partners get through some tough conversations. So it's okay to bring multiple people in at the same time to achieve that end goal.
Yeah, I think the outside perspective is really key sometimes. Some of the ones that are in the most kind of wonky situations, sometimes having someone in there, you don't hear how you sound or you don't hear how that comes off. And having that third person that, whether they're licensed or not, are almost just a sounding board for the room of like, do you guys understand that you're both saying the same thing in totally different ways?
Exactly.
And sometimes that person is utterly needed because an attorney has been in it for so long and the CPA has been working with the group for so long. They're just as much in the mix as the two partners or the family. So I agree with that completely. That third person's really helpful. And the idea of getting people in the same room at the same time, I think people think they should bring a checklist to one and get all the things checked off and then take that list and go to the next one. And sometimes you're right, putting people in the room at the same time could save time and incorrect effort in the wrong direction. So
absolutely.
I think that's great advice. It's been a wild ride doing the farmland transition, but it's a good one and it's very, very important. And kudos to UK. We've done a lot of work with you guys. Speaking of that econ department, you're here. What are some cool things that are going on over with you guys? I know you've got a new department chair, and I think I talked to my crop diversification crew. I think they are fully staffed for the first time in a little bit.
Yeah.
So a lot of things happening over there. What's going on in Ag Econ?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening. Like you mentioned, Dr. Aslahan Spalding is our new chair of the department. She took that position September 1. It's easy to pick on a chair, right? You know, they're the top of the pile, but she has a lot on her plate. Any chair does. I mean, it's a lot of management of people and things, and even things that we don't see at the administrative level. So she's doing a great job. I feel sorry for her right now just because it's so much at once. I don't know how. I think my head would explode. But so we're very grateful to have her on board. And yeah, I mean, it's Center for Crop Diversification is always doing great things, and they're fully staffed and rocking and rolling. And yeah, just I don't have a lot of really good specifics for you, but we're strong. We're still doing all the good things that we do. You know, Kenny Burdine, a stalwart, right, in the livestock world. He's still chugging stuff out, and I feel very grateful to work in that department. It's a really good team of individuals. Both on the extension side and the research side. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to kind of bridge the gap and work with some of the researchers on some farm production stuff. And I honestly think it's just more great things to come.
Yeah, we're getting to that time of year where they aren't going to see each other anyway because you're all going different directions to different county meetings. We turn the first of the year, and I tell the UK guys, do you guys ever see each other in your office, or do you just meet at a different county office?
Right.
It is just meeting season, which is great.
It is. Like, yeah, I mean, I think I will be in the office a few days between now and mid-December, and home a few days between now and mid-December, because I'm literally traveling just about every day doing county meetings. So,
which is fantastic.
yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been fun. I know for the listeners, I know taxes are not always the most fun thing to talk about, but this is just an important time of year. And I thought I've had you on the list since we really put the calendar together, because I just think you have a very good way of in a very basic manner saying top couple things we need to be focused on. It makes it feel more digestible, that it's not overwhelming. So that's a kudos to you. I think you do a good job with this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being invited in. This is a great format. Appreciate being here. So thank you all.
Yeah, appreciate you being here.
All right. Well, thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, The Kentucky Farm Life. And we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.